Ali, and good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Yukon. I'm based here in Sydney, and just looking out the window, it's a beautiful Yukon morning with bright blue skies. So I hope the same greets all of you for this morning, and we look forward to just enlightening a little bit more about the Yukon. And as you can see up there, we say Yukon larger than life. We'll go through a variety of things, but first of all, I'd just like to highlight we do have 4 distinct seasons in the Yukon, and obviously there are therefore 4 reasons to go there. And we'll cover today, where is Yukon? How do we get there? Why go to Yukon? We'll highlight the aurora and winter activities, and then the opposite extreme, or the real extreme, is the midnight sun and the summer activities. Quite a unique destination, and we'll highlight the various regions and activities that we can partake in the Yukon. So we highlight here, where is Yukon? And some of your customers that you're providing suggestions to travel to may not be totally aware of the Yukon and its location. It is located on the very top left-hand corner of Canada, and it's just above British Columbia and inside Alaska. And you can see there on the shaded area, Whitehorse, Dawson City, and they are the main regions of the Yukon. So how do we get there? What we need to concerned about from Australia is really Vancouver is the real entry point, and there are 2 ways of getting to the Yukon by Air Canada, 1 to 2 times daily depending on the season, and Air North, which is Yukon's own airline. It's twice daily. It's a very, very good service as well. There are other seasonal with WestJet, also other cities, Calgary, Edmonton, and Kelowna, that we can fly into as well. And of course, by road from Alaska and BC, and it's also a great cruise entry point from Skagway. So there's an enormous amount of access available for people travelling to the Yukon. It's usually an add-on from main Canada. However, we're now getting more and more people. In fact, Australia is now the 3rd biggest provider of tourists to the Yukon, following the United States and Germany. And Germany has its own direct flight, so we're doing quite well. So what is the Yukon all about? As I mentioned earlier on, aurora viewing, obviously known as the Northern Lights, and the great variety of winter activities that go with that. We have the midnight sun, which is the northern summers, where darkness doesn't happen. We have all types of adventure, from soft to high activity, amazing amount of scenery and wildlife. The highest mountains in Canada are located in the Yukon. Wonderful national parks and historic sites. It's the famous home of the gold rush, the history of the First Nations as well, and they're very, very proud people. And we talk about ways to get around the Yukon in the various roadways, etc. So just to give you a little bit of information on Yukon itself, as its geography is highlighted there. We fly into Whitehorse, that was highlighted before, if not travelling through Skagway. As you can see, Skagway is located down where the mouth is now, and then you can drive up to Whitehorse if they're not flying into Whitehorse. Then there are a great variety of things to do in and around Whitehorse. It's a couple of hours any direction, and there's enormous activity and accommodations and what have you. And then the trip up to Dawson City, the famous gold rush area, and then continue right up further into the Northwest Territories and right through the Dempster Highway there, which is quite fascinating. Okay, let's talk first of all about Whitehorse itself. It is the capital city, and by our means, city is 28,000 people, so it's a very, very large town, if you like, but a lovely, relaxing place. It's called the Wilderness City. It's because of its location. A great variety of hotels and lodges. It is the starting off point for people doing activities and travelling onwards from Whitehorse. So there's a lot of accommodations there. Wonderful outdoor activities, mountain, biking, hiking, whatever. And it's a great base, as it says there, to explore the Yukon region itself. Good shopping, dining, and I was amazed. My second visit there, I got to really have a wander around and look at the number of restaurants. There's every type of restaurant you can imagine, from Argentinian, Cuban, Italian, Greek, French. A lot of produce is grown in the Yukon area, so it makes it an ideal destination for dining, which is something that's really not known. Because of its very, very strong community aspect, a lot of activity and effort into music, arts and museums, a lot of festivals, and it has that small country town as it's highlighted there. The aurora viewing, which is probably the most famous of all, and you can see that image there, which is something that you will see from August through to mid-April. Obviously, it's stronger in the centre period, December, January, February, but there's no rules on this. It comes out when it wants to come out, as vibrant as it may be at any time. We recommend 3 to 4 nights while in Whitehorse, just to capitalise on the aurora viewing. You get a better view through your camera takes a stronger view, I should say, than the naked eye. However, that is also quite visible. Most tours are based out of Whitehorse. It can be independent or in groups, and the tours are late at night, so 10 p.m. you would leave your hotel, go to the viewing site, and get back at 2 a.m. So it's wise not to plan too much activity for the early next morning, so your clients can rest and relax. So just a summary of the aurora viewing. The viewing sites are about 20 minutes out of the town of the city of Whitehorse. Hotel transfers are arranged by the tour companies that you will be packaging this through. When at the viewing sites, there are heated yurts. For those who don't know, are like teepees or tents. They give assistance with photography and the snacks, coffee, biscuits, etc., on site for enjoyment throughout the evening. Many of the lodges now also have viewing platforms or viewing areas to view the Northern Lights, and this is ideal because people can set their alarms, and the management of the lodges will also highlight when they're coming out and maybe come and wake people up if they need to do that way. I mentioned a while ago a range of accommodations that are available right throughout the Yukon, mainly based in and around Whitehorse or in Dawson City itself. There are a few spread throughout the territory of Yukon. From 3-star hotels, it's not a 5-star destination. A couple of boutiques which maybe get to 4-star, but the Yukon is not about that. It's about the wilderness. It's about the lodges and the cabins, etc. Some gourmet boutique type bed and breakfast facilities there. A lot of hostels, and it is a really great camping destination. So the lodges, as you can see on the screen there, a variety of. Many of them are quite simple and rustic. Others have all the facilities that you need. So depending on the client's needs, we suggest maybe 2 or 3 nights in a cabin or a lodge, and usually they're located within a good viewing of the lights area and activities as well. If they don't have these dog sledding, etc. on site, they have a connection with operators that come and pick up, and it's an easy activity to partake. City tour packages around Whitehorse. You can see on the screen there the Klondike National historic site and the McBride Museum. Really, really interesting and very, very good information. We have a hot springs just north of Whitehorse, which is close by to the Wildlife Preserve. Wildlife Preserve contains virtually all of the wildlife that you would see out in the wild, but in this big, huge preserve. There's also its own brewing company, which has fine beverages that they make in the Yukon and have sampling tours, etc. A great deal of shopping, as I mentioned earlier on, and the outdoor activities are varied and many. Just a shot there of the hot springs, so people can be out during the day, whether it's summer or winter, and then partake some leisurely activity, just relaxing in the hot springs. The preserve, I mentioned a while ago, enormous amount of wildlife. A lot of these animals in here have been gathered from the wild that may have been injured or just not surviving too well, and they bring them in here and look after them, and they're in their own huge territory. It's quite an amazing place. Dog sledding is a very, very famous activity during the winter months, as you can see there. During the summer, that would be green and maybe a lake area as well. So it's quite spectacular. Dog sledding is organised by in teams or individual people, whatever the requirement may be. Other winter activities, snowmobiling and snowshoeing, also available all in close proximity to Whitehorse itself. So the winters can be very cold, so temperatures range from 0 to minus 35 Celsius, as you can see there. So it's not essential to take winter clothes. In fact, we recommend not to take big, heavy clothes because it takes up too much room in suitcases, etc. Maybe thermal underwear would be a great idea, and everything else is rented through the operators, etc., while the people are in Whitehorse, so it's easy travelling in that way. It is a dry climate. It's not humid. The snow is there from November through April, as it's highlighted on the screen. The clearest and coldest months are January through February, obviously the height of the extreme winter, but it is a different type of feel of coldness. We don't get the heavy wind chill factor that happens in other parts of winter destinations. In December, the sunlight 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. and 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. through March is the sunlight, so you can see there's not a lot of daylight. However, the extreme is the midnight sun. I've been in Dawson City where a sign on the lobby of the hotel says sunrise 11:40, sunset 12:06. So it's just like a flickering of a light, and there's no darkness. So long light hours, April through to August, up to 24 hours of daylight virtually at the solstice of June. And the temperature's really the opposite to what was highlighted before on winter, so it's 15 degrees up to 35, so it can get very, very hot as well. So there's two great extremes in the Yukon. Some of the activities in the summer, June through September, as it's highlighted there. Some beautiful, beautiful experiences. It's just a great, great outdoor lifestyle with hiking, canoeing, rafting, as it all says there, camping, fishing, whatever the perception of activity that your customers have, it's available in the Yukon, all within easy reach of the main areas of Whitehorse and also Dawson. And it can all be organised in a half-day activity, full day, 2 or 3 days, or whatever it may be. Just a shot there you can see of people just relaxing, getting ready to either go hiking or biking or whatever they may wish to do around the Whitehorse area. Within 10-15 minutes of Whitehorse, you can be in this type of terrain where you can experience the lakes and the various areas. All the walks are recommended with guides for those who are not experienced walkers. However, people who are experienced can do their own walking, just to be careful of the location of the bears and so on. However, as they say in the Yukon, the bears are more frightened of humans than humans are of the bears. So again, just another shot there of the Yukon River. It's the third longest in North America, so it just gives you an idea of the expanse of the destination of the Yukon. Canoe rentals on half-day or multi-day available, again, guided or unguided. So people are well catered for, as well as flight seeing. I'm going over there on Saturday week, and we'll be doing some flight seeing over the Kluane National Park, which I'll highlight a little later. So whether it be for fishing, whether it be visitation, or sightseeing activity, enormous amount of availability on seaplanes, helicopter tours, fixed wing planes, whatever it might be. Special tours also for fly-in fishing trips, which is quite popular. Yukon now has 35,000 people, quite different to the well over 100,000 people in the gold rush areas. 35 people and all of those wildlife species that you see there. And when traveling in the Yukon, these are all visible, usually from roadside, from walks or whatever. You'll quite often be driving along and you'll see a family of bears feasting on the grass in the hillside in the distance. You can pull over to the side of the road and then take some photographs well in the safety of your motor vehicle. It's a wonderful, wonderful destination for that activity. You'll see moose by the roadside, also caribou, mountain sheep, very, very prominent, and bird life all over. So it is quite spectacular to see these types of guys by the roadways. They're also in the wildlife preserve I mentioned a while ago. If you happen to have a day you don't see anything, the preserve will have all that activity. So this, beyond Whitehorse, there are a great variety of activities. I think I said earlier on that 2 hours sort of northeast or west and south of Whitehorse is a great deal of activity to partake in, such as day trips on the South Klondike Highway that you see a shot of there with the Emerald Lake in the background of a camper. There's also Car Cross, which is the First Nations settlement. It's a wonderful, wonderful restored old village where the White Pass train comes into. There are First Nations craft. There are people doing demonstrations, coffee shops. Really, really a lovely setting, and explains the real history of the First Nations people. The White Pass Rail, as I mentioned just a moment ago, built in the 1900s for at the time of the gold rush. Many tour options are away, many stops along the way. It's a very old, historic, slow-moving train. Beautiful, beautiful, wonderful, spectacular scenery over the mountain pass from Skagway in Alaska right through to Car Cross that we highlighted a while ago. Wonderful for day trips, and just a way of understanding possibly how these gold diggers, the gold miners, made their way from BC, for example, all the way through the Yukon up to Dawson City to try and discover their gold. And of course, many did and made some fortunes there. So in and around that area, there's guided mountain biking and culture tours, half and multi-day, etc., depending on the stage of participants. Kluane National Park is a UNESCO site, absolutely amazing frozen mountain range with every type of sightseeing aspect. You can find a wonderful interpretive centre there, highlighting all the history of the First Nations people and also the activities throughout the years. Hiking trails, wildlife viewing, you'll see mountain goats, buffalo, etc. There's rafting and there's also fishing throughout that area. This is a shot from a fixed-wing aircraft, and you'll see another one over there where the mouse cursor is at the moment. That is in the St. Elias mountain range, part of the world's largest ice field, and it's also Canada's highest peaks. and Mount Logan is located here, which is the tallest mountain in Canada, just under 6,000 metres. A lovely sightseeing activity over about 20 minutes to an hour, whatever people wish to do, and that's the frozen rivers below, and you'll see quite often mountain goats and what have you on the rocks, buffalo sometimes in a water pond if it's in the summertime. Enormous amount of scenic drives available. These are the fall colours in September, or autumn as we call it, and just absolutely beautiful for travelling around, whether it be a motorhome or whether it be a car rental. Just one thing on car rentals. Car rentals can be picked up in Whitehorse but have to be dropped off back in Whitehorse again. You cannot drop it in Dawson City, so that's something to remember, but your wholesaler, whoever you're working with, will have all of those details. Okay, this is what we call the Golden Circle 4 nights recommended. So it goes on that South Klondike Highway I mentioned a while ago. This is out of Whitehorse again. So it does Whitehorse, Carcross, Skagway into Alaska, and then back through Kluane, where I showed you the fixed-wing flights, and then back to Whitehorse again. That's a typical sort of round trip on the southern part of the Yukon that we recommend. It's worthwhile partaking of. And then we go further to Dawson City and Tombstone National Park. Now, where I've got the cursor again, a wonderful drive is either straight up through the centre to Dawson City, or it can be done around. I'll just show you through Kluane. You go in and out of Alaska a couple of times and up to Dawson City. Either way, very, very beautiful, depending on the time of the year. So if you're in spring, everything is just coming into its freshness and alive. The animals are out and about. If it's in the autumn or fall, it's just beautiful rusty colours and still with animals around. Winter time, it's probably not wise to drive through there because it can get a bit icy. However, winter activity will be in and around Whitehorse, more so because of dog sledding, etc. And then we've got Tombstone all the way through to Inuit in the Northwest Territories. So the Gold Rush, let's highlight that a little bit. 1896 started the Gold Rush. We highlighted earlier on the White Pass Rail that went from Skagway all the way through up to Carcross, and that was the commencement of how those people, more than 100,000 people, headed to the Yukon to discover gold, and that's mainly the way they headed with their huskies and packs and sleds and so on. It's an amazing feat of all those people, and there were very, very few problems, very little fighting or arguing. Everyone had a desire to get there to make their fortune. So visitors to Dawson City feel they have stepped back in 100 years, and really they have, because this is what you see. Dawson City is a historic site, gone from 100,000 people to a population now of 2,000. However, grows quite significantly in the summer season in particular. As I said a while ago, you can do a 6-hour drive from Whitehorse, a couple of ways of getting there, or an hour flight by air north from Whitehorse to Dawson City, which I'll be doing in a couple of weeks' time. A lot of information, some great little restaurants, bars, activities, dining, just a fun place to be. You will see people there on a boardwalk. It's sort of a little like a Wild West town in a way, because you've got the timber boardwalks, and that is because of the frozen ice and what have you. Under the ground, it doesn't allow the bitumen roadways, etc., and it keeps it back in its old style. It's quite a fascinating way of walking around, and you can see some undulations just there where I've got that cursor. That is the ice pack underneath does tend to lift the areas up a little bit. Historic activities, information on gold panning, dredging, some wonderful activity to participate in. You can pan for gold or just view what people have done. The historic areas, guided walks and tours, historic buildings. There's also a Can show. Canada's oldest casino is still operating in Dawson City. You can imagine back in the gold rush days, the casino was a great activity for hardworking people, and they used to come out at night time and enjoy. And it's full-on musical show with can dances, etc. during the summer season, and gambling is still permitted there. I mentioned earlier on some wonderful First Nations activity and just some wonderful exhibits right throughout, and they're very, very proud. It's a wonderful, wonderful way of learning of the history. Here's a view just above Dawson City, 10 minutes on the mountain above it, and that's the Klondike River you can see there. And then we talked about a little while ago of the Tombstone National Park, 1.5 hours drive north of Dawson City via the Dempster Highway, which goes into Tombstone National Park, and that's a huge area in itself. And you can just see some of the scenery there. Obviously that's in the fall, but it can be also spectacular right throughout the year. Not many people travel through there in the winter. It's very much a specialised experience to do that. We do suggest that people who wish to go all the way through to Univik in the Northwest Territory from Dawson City, it's quite a long journey. We recommend 7 or 8 days, but to really experience the outdoor lifestyle of the ice road and all the experiences of the wilderness of the Yukon. So you can just see a shot there. You can be maybe driving through there and maybe see another car in a half an hour or maybe an hour. So the iconic drives and scenic itineraries, all the tour companies that you'll be dealing with have these packages available, or you can rent a vehicle through them as well. Anything from 3 to 7 days we suggest. Great range of hotels and B&Bs, camping ground facilities, etc. Bear in mind it's not a 5-star, it's more an experience, it's more rustic in lots of areas. So in summary, aurora viewing late August through April. The winter period is all the snow activities of dog sledding, snowmobiling, etc., December through April. The midnight sun, summers are June through September. All throughout those periods that I mentioned above, we've got the mountains, the ice field, the rivers, the lakes. It's a larger-than-life scenery with no crowds. Wonderful, wonderful outdoor activity and history all combined into part of the First Nations activities as well. Just some information here that Whitehorse is located 2.5 hours from Vancouver or Calgary or the other arrival or departure points into the Yukon, so it's close by. The regions we mentioned a while ago of Carcross, the Southern Lakes, which are spectacular, which is that White Pass Rail I mentioned a while ago, over to Kluane National Park for the flight seeing, Dawson City for the gold mining experience, and then into the Tombstone National Park to travel further up the Dempster right through to the Arctic Circle. It is a unique destination as it's highlighted there. And I think we can finish off now. I think we're just about on time for the end of the show. So thank you very much for everyone for joining in today. As we say in the Yukon, it's 4 seasons, therefore 4 reasons to travel. I've got my email contact address there, or through Charlie we can be contacted for any further information. However, your favourite wholesaler will have all the information for you. Many of the tour operators and wholesalers are packaging in the Yukon, and it's just building each year. And we're experiencing some really wonderful visits by Australians. Thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you so much, Ray.
Thank you, Charlie.
Such a fantastic and, yeah, as you say, just really unique destination. Yeah, there's so much that you covered, and I'm sure you could probably cover a lot more as well with longer than half an hour.
Exactly. But anyway, that's what we have, and hopefully people enjoyed and were able to learn a little more about this wonderful destination of the Yukon.
Yeah, definitely. I think it probably just put it on everybody's bucket list that was listening in as well. So that's great. So guys, the floor is open for questions. Please type any questions into the chat box. I think a few messages have come through, but they're mostly wows. So Kathy says, thanks so much, want to go now. Fiona says, thanks for a great webinar. Fiona says, what would the drive time be from Vancouver? Do people drive from Vancouver, Ray?
Yeah, it's a really good solid day's driving. Look, it depends on what people wish to do. There's a lot to see and do as well, but if they want to drive continually, you need at least a full day, maybe an overnight.
Lovely, thank you. Nadine says, thanks, Ray, looks great. Yeah. Judy, thanks to Ray, another informative webinar. She's got 5 ladies flying to Canada tomorrow. They're traveling on the White Pass Rail. Really looking forward to seeing the Yukon. Oh, that's fantastic. Thanks,
Wonderful.
Judy.
Fantastic. Thank you for that. They won't be disappointed, I can assure you.
Yeah, definitely. Anita says a great insight to the Yukon. Thanks. Lovely. All right, then. Well, I think we'll sign off there. Some great messages coming through. So everybody obviously really enjoyed that fantastic presentation. So thank you. Ray and I will just hang out on the line if anybody does want to have a quick chat, but as Ray says, you've got his contact, and I will send out a follow-up email, and also Ray will send out a follow-up email to the presentation. So still plenty of opportunity to ask questions. Yeah, if you've got a client coming up soon that you need to find a bit more info about, then please get in touch. But until then,
also
thank you very much.
The website is also wonderful information for anyone who wishes to gather a little bit more. It's very, very informative, and they can go into a great variety of information.
Great, thank you. All right, I will sign off now. Thanks, guys. Bye.
Thank you.